Chris, folks that are tuning in, they're going to be like, "Yeah, let's talk about the future of how to unlock growth." And no, we're going to talk chickens.
Yeah,
Chris, how's it going?
good. How are you, Adam?
I'm great. I don't know many people that have chickens. We're going to go there for just literally a minute, and then we're going to come back to the podcast because you have six chickens.
We have six chickens, and we lost one because really it was we had the Golden Girls, and then we had basically the other names were like Salt and Pepper and Spinderella. So, but we don't have one, and we haven't renamed them, so we don't know who we lost. But we've got a gray one specifically that's named Sophia because my wife's obsessed with the Golden Girls. And so, yeah, the
Golden
Golden
Girls.
Girls run around, but it's so cool because I'll leave. We live on an acre in town, so we get kind of that country feel, but we're in the middle of town, and so I'll take a step out my front door to either walk out to the front street to get mail or something, and they'll congregate on a corner and they'll just start yelling at me. So I'll just, hey girls, how's it going? Baka baka
Um,
baka baka baka.
I've got so many more questions, but I think it has to be a different podcast for the rest of the questions, Chris.
Sure.
For those who are tuning in this episode, we're going to spotlight a rare breed, like play on words there, a rare breed of marketing leader who still lives in the weeds. Chris doesn't just oversee KPIs, he builds the system himself. From lead flows to brand building to early AI agent adoption. We talk about AI agents, I think, in every episode this season. Chris is charting a pragmatic path toward go-to-market transformation. We're going to explore what it really takes to turn a manual, multi-touch SOPs, I think everyone listening in has those challenges, into intelligent digital workflows. And why the best future CMOs will be part builders, part architects. It's going to be fascinating. We're going to start with a icebreaker. You've seen orgs move from one, although we already had one with the chickens, but we're going to do another one. We've seen orgs go from one person to 40 plus team. What's one tool, practice, or mindset that you think too many marketing leaders outgrow too soon, Chris?
Oh boy, that's the icebreaker question.
Yeah.
That
We're
is,
gonna go straight into it. Well, we took the chickens was the kind of the soft beginning, and now we're jumping in.
man, Adam. Man, I maybe turn my brain on a little bit. I'm gonna say scalability is probably
Hmm.
one of the bigger ones. And why I say that is, as you're growing a team, you either add people because you need capacity, or people think you need scalability. Which in this day and age, you can do a whole lot of things with automation and AI, which we'll get into later. But I think scalability is the probably the number one thing. And you hear so many people, as you're reading through all the feeds on LinkedIn or some of the other forums you go to, Pavilion, you'll see a lot of people are like, man, I'm wearing just too many hats as a marketing leader or even a person in a marketing department. And the one thing that my team and I talk about, I'm like, I've never known it any other way. Like that, you basically in marketing, you're going to wear multiple hats and you're always going to be doing something and you're always going to be working. And so the old age of I'm going to do one thing, I'm going to do it really well, and I'm going to be an expert. You still can do that, but ultimately you're probably going to be an expert and know how to do several things really well because you've got budget constraints, and whether you've got a CEO that believes in marketing or doesn't believe in marketing, you've really got to maximize the talent pool you've got. And so when I look at it from as you're moving your team up, is it scalable? Can we add it? Can we add in automation? Do we have to have another FTE? Because when you start bringing in more people into the team too, it totally changes the dynamic. You can't move as fast. You're not as agile. The ship, it's like the Titanic. And I say that
Hmm.
basically it's a large cruise ship that takes a long time to turn around. And it's not as agile like if you're, on a Zodiac or something going down the river. How was that? Was that good for an icebreaker?
You went deep, fast, right? You delivered, Chris. And so true, depends on the time or the life cycle that your company is in. Maybe the cruise ship is the right, mode of transportation. But if you need to
100%.
be agile and you got to move fast, a smaller team is it's where it's at. And it sounds like you see yourself as a utility player. Like, how does that impact how you build your team and prioritize growth in terms of your own time? Because especially now, there's so many tools that are coming out. I think we can get lost in the weeds versus how to think about where to prioritize and focus your time?
Yeah, that is a great question. So, and you and I have discussed this, and this is a main topic that I discuss with everybody, and even when I gave a talk last year on building a high performing team. So, first off, you've got to have the right mindset. It doesn't even matter about the right skill set, but it's got to be the right mindset. And then, maybe look at them. Are they more qualitative or quantitative frame of mind? So, should we put them with data analytics, or should they be in content? Because I don't believe that everybody can do both. But how I align my teams are ask them what they want to do, not what they should be doing, but ask them what they want to do, and then align them with roles that really allows them to spread their wings. They're not being micromanaged. They can have autonomy. They can do their thing. It breeds loyalty. It breeds better work because they want to do it. And I give everybody their responsibilities. And then how I look at it is I overlook the whole strategy of the department, but that I'm the utility player. And that's been my gift, that coming in, being a founding member of a department, doing that twice, all the way to 40-person departments. I know how to do everything. And I may not be the best and an expert at some things, but I know how to do everything. And so what I do is I give my team their responsibilities, and then I go, hey, I've got extra capacity. I'm low on meetings today, or I've finished up these other projects. Give me the junk stuff that you don't want to do. I don't even care if it's data entry or something. Like, give me the other stuff so you can be concentrating on the overall picture for your project. And I found one or two things. Most of the time, I call my team my ones. I don't have a left and a right hand or anything. I call them, they're all my number ones. But my ones, what they'll do is they'll sometimes they will give me the junk stuff, but sometimes they're like, you know what, actually, can you do this big thing for me so I can just take care of all the tedious stuff? I'm like, absolutely. So it'll change on any given day, but that's how I develop my team, because my goal as their boss, I actually like to be called boss because I grew up in a blue collar family. And so they're like, yo, boss, what's up? But as their manager, as their leader, as their boss, is to grow their skill set and to grow them so they leave me one day. Now, I never want them to leave. And I've already almost tried to get one of my team members to leave because an opportunity came up, and they told me, I'm actually having way too much fun and I want to stay here. And I told them, there's no wrong answer to this. Like, I just want to make sure you know that I'm always looking out for your best interest. And again, that breeds loyalty, but I also don't do it as a manipulative way for them to stay with me. Like, I honestly want them to grow and have the opportunities that I didn't when, I was at their point in their career.
That's so cool, Chris. And interesting things. You're okay with calling you boss, yet give you the kind of the crappy things to do.
Yeah.
And you're okay that they outgrow you. It's a very unique way to think about it. And it seems like that's been successful, and it breeds loyalty.
Yeah. And this isn't anything that I fundamentally just invented while I was either taking a shower, mowing the lawn, or doing something else. I've had some wonderful mentors in my life, and they're still in my life. In fact, Dave Tulliver, he's the VP of marketing at HSI. They are a direct competitor of EHS Insight that I'm currently at. And actually, before I took the job, I called him and I was like, are you going to be okay if I do this? And he told me, listen, it's not the 50s. And if you can get a VP title faster than I did, like, I'm going to be just floored. I'm going to be so thrilled for you. But I took that model from him, and he did that for me. He grew me and gave me the confidence to say, like, you should not be working for me. He actually told me, he's like, your runway is 6 to 9 months, and then I'm kicking you out of the nest, and you're going to have to go find a big person job to lead your own department and grow your own team and do your own thing. And so he follows through on that promise, and that's something that I've brought in as kind of my core fundamentals when it goes to growing my team.
Well, let's talk about competitors. Right? You mentioned brand awareness as a core challenge, especially like when you think about competitors that may have a bigger budget than you, maybe 10x.
Yeah. Yeah,
How do you punch above your weight in saturated space? And maybe let's start to think about the SOPs that you put in place to do that.
sure. So, you know, I always look at it from what's your bang for your buck? Could we just dump a bunch of money into search engine marketing, blow through a bunch of money to get top of funnel for keyword searches? Sure, but you have to look at it like, is that the best way of utilizing from a brand awareness standpoint? It might work from a demand generation, which is part of brand awareness. Let's be honest, because in marketing, everything touches itself and everything is dependent on everything to work properly. And so I always look at it like, okay, what is going to be our bang for our buck? Or is my team will probably chuckle when they hear this, like, is the juice worth the squeeze? So if we're going into brand awareness, I'm looking at, okay, what channels are going to be the best? Where does our ICP actually read? Like back in the day, everyone told you like, oh, you got to have, Facebook and Instagram and Google and Bing and all of this. And I'm like, hey, that's great, but let's do an evaluation and actually see where our ICP is. And also, if our ICP is there, do they want to read about what grandma posted for the latest iteration of her cookies on Facebook? Or do they want to read about EHS platforms and how they can make their safety culture thrive? More or less is going to be the cookies, right? So you cut it out of there. So I just through a scientific process, just kind of eliminate where I want to go, and then be like, okay, well, what's realistic? What are the realistic goals that we could get out of this, and set that expectation from top down, left, right, diagonally, in order to make sure that, listen, if we advertise here, don't expect a bunch of leads. This is purely for brand awareness. That brand awareness is going to grow over time, and it's going to trickle down in a domino effect, going to equal to opportunities later, but it's also hard to track from an ROI perspective. So I would say, if you're growing it fast, there's three ways to do it. You've got SEO, or in these days, LLMO. So how are you working with your AI optimization to make sure that your page is getting the correct it's providing the correct content for the AI bots to crawl it. You've got, and I call that more like you're building a fire, you're throwing logs on it, the bonfire is getting bigger slowly over time. SEM, you're pouring gas in the fire, goes up quick, bringing a lot of stuff, you burn through a lot of cash, and then it goes down again. And then there are also display ads too, which is also, part of SEM. But I like to say a combination, and you have to do a combination, especially in brand awareness. You've got to have a good balance and a good mix, because the SEO, the LLMO, it takes time in order for it to work. Especially even this morning, my CEO and I were talking about how, you wanted to have an inbound program? Well, you should have started it 7 years ago or XYZ amount of years ago. It's not going to be something that's just going to happen overnight. Like, you have to set proper expectations. And then from an SEM perspective, like, you've got a balance of like, okay, well, I'm spending all this money from a brand awareness perspective. It's bringing in some leads, but ultimately I can't depend on this forever, because it's just burning through budget that I may or may not necessarily have. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And you also introduced LLMO. So I'm guessing what it is, and I'd love for you to expand it. I also have other contenders to, I think, what we're saying, but let's play with the words just a bit. What did you mean?
Well, that's the funny thing. So, we started doing research, and how this came about is we're being hit with the same thing as the big companies, your HubSpots, your everybody else, that back in October were like, oh my gosh, my inbound SERPs, even though my rankings are going through the roof, the traffic from these are going down, because everybody's just looking at what the AI bot is providing to you, and then not clicking anywhere else. They've got the answer. And so we were able to identify that traffic has just gone down significantly. And what are we going to do about it? And also, can we depend on inbound? Is inbound going to be a thing? I think this is probably going to be a controversial topic, because I don't think a lot of people are really having this conversation. I believe inbound is going to die within the next
Don't say
5
that.
to 10. Oh
I
yeah.
think we just lost many people that are listening. But now we can really relax because no one is listening after this
No, no,
point.
no. The thing is, I'm happy to have that conversation. And here's the thing: it's just a conversation right now, but everybody has to be realistic that today's inbound is going to change. And so, to get back to your original question, like LLMO, I mean, I think it's called like AEO or GAO, or basically it's the large language optimization of your website. So,
Yeah.
and the cool thing is they're already starting to provide a lot of the criteria that you should have in order to start gaining some of that traffic from these, GPTs or propensity or some of the other search engines that are providing these services. But yeah,
Kidding aside, I totally agree with you. Inbound is at serious risk. The way marketing is done is in such flux that maybe there's only a few points in history, but those points didn't happen as fast as this is happening. And the
totally agree with
reason
you.
I focused on the term is because I'm also hearing SEO become search everywhere
Yeah.
optimization as opposed to search engine optimization. But let's move on to the next point. So you've got kind of moving targets. Your product is changing, right? Your ICP is changing, but you got to continue to be on point with your message, and you got to personalize it. How do you do that? And as you and I discussed, this is me starting to dig for SOPs, and we're going to begin to discuss, hey, current state, but also what is an ideal state. Most of the episodes in the season, we're moving from current state to begin to theorize what's possible with the AI agent revolution that's upon us.
Yeah. So repeat your question again.
Yeah, like how do you like stand point? Because I just gave you a I was like, hey, this and by the way, and comma that. But just like how do you stand point with messaging and personalization while the product is moving and so is your ICP? They're evolving.
It's funny too, because sometimes the ICP is influencing the product and sometimes the product's influencing the ICP.
Mm.
And so having a closed loop communication, I mean, there's multiple different ways. My sales leader, John Nichols, has said some very nice things about me. First and foremost, like John, Caesar, Mary Quinn, the VP of CS at EHS Insight, like when we came together and from a senior leadership team, the management team, we all knew that we had to be lockstep. We didn't have to be best friends. Luckily, the three of us are, I would say, like more like the three musketeers, and even our team say that, like, God, we see you three together, and it's like there goes trouble. But I believe that if you're in an organization that has a marketing leadership, sales leadership, and CS leadership, they need to be in lockstep and they need to be in agreement first and foremost. And that's a whole other conversation we can have. But my point to this is you need to have that closed loop conversation on what's happening as a prospect's going down the buyer's funnel or the left side of the bow tie, and then as it goes, as they turn into a customer and then go into the other side of the bow tie, and that's where Caesar's team is implementing and nurturing and retaining those customers. What's being said during these different points of the conversations, and then how are they changing over time after they've been using our conversation, our platform. So what are the conversations they're having later of, well, this is how it's influenced us, but we also need this and we need to do that. So that's definitely one step. Is you've got to have a full line of communication of what's working, what's not working, and then what do we need to be saying top of funnel in order to make our lives easier for our CS counterparts. Because that's something that when I came in, we didn't have a lead problem. We didn't have a pipeline problem. We didn't know how to describe ourselves. And so I wrote a 28-page document that really locked down our ICP, the messaging, the vernacular, like users versus contacts. In our world, it's users, not contacts. And that gets us in trouble when sales reps are saying like, oh yeah, you can load up as many contacts as you want. That's not the case. Then the Caesar has to deal with it. So having lockstep's one. Two, you got to have a constant pulse on the industry and the different sub industries. So from an EHS perspective in the world I've lived in for 16 years, that world resides in every single industry that you can touch within the United States of America. Now there's 10 or 11 that we play very, very well in. So you have to look into those and say like, okay, well, what's important to them? What are the pain points that each one of these sub-segment ICPs are feeling? And I'll get to my rambling will stop here in a second, but when you're looking at communication and tailoring these messages, you have to know the different sub-segments, the different sub-industries, and then the personas within there. And you really have to dial in to understand like what are their pain points, what's important to them. Because at the end of the day, there's that really good book called Building a Story Brand. We are not the hero of the story. The hero of the story is the person that is either the POC leading the way to bring on the platform or the person utilizing the platform every day. So think of us as like we're the boots or the sword or the shield or the chainmail as they're going on their quest to do whatever they need to do. But we're not the person that's actually leading the quest itself. And so I think for me, from a customization of communication is, one, you gotta have full loop as it goes through the bow tie, but you also have to understand the personas really well. And here's the kicker: changes all the time. It's not a set it and forget it. You've got to go in there and I like to do it quarterly, where I go in and I go, do we need to restructure everything? What has been working? Do we need to blow it up and rethink about it? And because I'm always trying to think a quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, a year, 18 months ahead of time, because I'm very proactive and not reactive, because I've already got enough gray hair and I don't want to grow anymore.
And so it sounds like, if I was to summarize it, there's the get all the players across the entire customer journey on the same page, stay in sync, lockstep.
100%. And then if you're absorbing the information from them, you've got to, it's my job to not only absorb it, but then turn it into something that's a bulletized list of like, here's what I'm picking up, here's what I'm seeing. We need to alter our messaging or how we're interacting with ICP or customers or prospects this way. And it's something that works pretty well for us, and I feel like we've got a pretty good pulse, but I wouldn't say perfect pulse, because if we were perfect, I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't even have to work anymore. Actually, I would be sitting here because I'm enjoying speaking with you.
I appreciate it. I kind of think you'd be working too. You enjoy that too.
Yeah,
maybe.
My wife tells me I'm a workaholic, so it's something I'm working on.
I could see that. All right, so now we're going to dive into AI agents. So Chris, I'm going to throw the definition real quick and see if you agree with it, if anything you would change with the term AI agent. But simply put, digital employee that has access to tools and ability to reason. It's the shortest, condensed version that I have been able to distill. Would you agree, or would you change anything before we dive into it?
Maybe not necessarily a connection to everything. And I'm not saying it's bad one way or another. In fact, I'm indifferent. And this is more goes to like what I've seen, but I would actually agree with that definition.
Perfect. So here's where I'd like to go next. And I think a lot of folks that are watching this are they've started to hear AI agents are going to be part of our workflows, right? It's coming. And because we've all already begun with the co-pilots, maybe you weren't sure the first when the ChatGPT came out, you're probably now using it and your team is using it. Similarly, we now understand something else is coming. What's next? And we also, I don't know how many, probably majority have gone on YouTube, have seen some videos that claim everything's possible, and it's all crap. It's not true. It's being sold as entertainment value. You just watch a video that says, in this video, you're going to watch how to do this that will replace an entire team. And the bottom line is it's beautiful pictures and none of it is functional. And then you dive in and you understand it's crap. However, AI agents are not. I am convinced that they will deliver on that promise. We just don't yet know exactly what shape it's going to take. And as Chris, many of the audience members know, we're experimenting it. I'm a practitioner. we're deep in the AI agent experimentation at the moment. But Chris, can you talk about what you've already done and which SOPs most complex you've begun to go after, kind of your state of R&D in this world of AI agents?
Yeah. So, one thing I always preface and start with is if you're not using AI in some form or another, and I'm not saying to look to find efficiencies to fire people, because that's the wrong way of looking at it. But if you're not utilizing these, leaning into it, trusting it to augment your current team so they can be better, faster, and stronger, not to quote Daft Punk, but you're really missing the boat on this. I've told my team that from an AI perspective, it's only as good as it's a tool, and the tool is only as good as the person that's wielding it. So anybody can pick up a hammer, but can you build a house? Not necessarily, or it may fall down on you. So flexing those muscles and getting really good at it is definitely one component. Um, I went on a massive thought and I just lost it. So could you repeat your question again,
No,
Adam?
because it is starting to talk about AI agents, skipping just the fact that we should be using AI is probably not right at this moment in time. So I appreciate you sharing that with the audience. I think the next question is how far along the AI agent experimentation or research and development are you? Have you already begun to build anything, or are you thinking about it? Kind of share with the audience, because I see you as one of the innovators. I've had a lot of conversations with marketing leaders. You're in the front lines.
Yeah, what we did is we identified that, 60% of our MQLs were not doing anything. And now our flow is someone comes in, they request a free trial. So that email goes in, but then they're then required to do a discovery call, which they can schedule right there with our two SDRs that are sitting there waiting and on the phones, guiding everybody through a discovery call. What we wanted to do is we wanted to engage with an AI agent to start going out and recouping XYZ amount of these MQLs that were coming in. And where I feel that the technology is getting there, it was just not there, and we weren't getting the numbers that we thought. And I'm not going to name the company just because out of respect for them, but I will say this: they were the less expensive of the two because I was evaluating the two of them, and there was these other two gentlemen that were rolling one out, and they wanted like 5 grand a month for an agent. And I told them, I'm like, just for this, I seriously I'll just hire somebody to just handle this. Like, if you guys are coming in, like, sure, it's bleeding edge technology, but you can't also try to gouge customers because it's not proven technology. You got to come in early, price cut, show the market that it can work, and then continue to increase over time as you bring new customers in. It's normal business as we've seen day in and day out for any new products or anything. What we saw with that problem though is like, well, listen, we can do this internally. And so we are working towards having our own agent that would reside within the CRM and piece together with other things that it's looking at all the emails, all the calls, all of the communication that happens between ICP and our team, even customers, and then starts to crunch that. Now, we haven't gotten to a full automation, but we've got projects going on right now where we've compiled, let's go after these different industries. Let's compile all the emails between the signing prospect and our team, and let's start to crunch the data. So we're in the early stages of crunching the data, but the goal is, I'm like, okay, from all of this data, then what are you going to do with it? Because most people are like, oh, cool, I have all this data. I'm like, well, data's great unless you do something with it. So go ahead, Adam.
No, Chris, I'm just want to call it out. We're discussing the middle funnel. Middle funnel. This is the marketing to sales handoff, right? Would you pick a different word to describe where in the customer journey this challenge is? Because I'd like to go deeper into it.
Sure. Well, and what I'm talking about is more like as it's happened throughout the whole funnel, and then how I can then better augment from the data we pull out of all these emails to make our top of funnel better, to make the emails from the middle of the funnel all better. So that's what we're doing with all that data. It's like, okay, well, how do how do we augment content on the website? How do we augment the emails that are being sent out? But we still don't have like a minus automation. We still don't have like a full agent that's doing a lot of these things. If that answers the question.
And I think it's you are one of the innovators. Like that's the bleeding edge. I haven't yet met a marketing leader that said, "Hey, we've deployed a full agent that's fully functional, tested, and off it goes." But I think we are within months going to see many of them that are going to be deployed, because I think the lift is deceivingly looks simple. It isn't. It's not as simple as here's an LLM. It now gets into, okay, how do you train it properly? And then how do you divide it into small tasks? How do you create not one agent, but many little agents that have very specific tasks with a lot of analytics behind every task? It's doable. It's just the lift is, what'd you say earlier? It's not worth the squeeze, especially if you're doing this for one organization.
Right. It's just not worth the squeeze. I think you also have to look at it too of you've got to be trained. And this is where the human aspect comes out of it. You have to be trained of what looks good and what looks bad, because you could train an agent to work all day long and then it's like, oh, it's doing its thing. I'm like, oh, okay, but is it doing it to my quality, or like what is it doing? And you can look at the output and be like, okay, well, we've got a little bit of training we've got to do in order to kind of get it a little bit further on. But for the most part, there's still that human aspect. And I think senior leaders where it's like, okay, we need to tweak this, and this, because this isn't necessarily where we need to be.
Yeah.
Because it kind of goes back to earlier what you were saying. Like, I call this the AI gold rush. And you're seeing companies get sprouted up left and right, and they're failing left and right because everybody's trying to get that .com bubble. They're trying to get that money early, trying to get PE injection, VC injection to make that product that's going to be the next HubSpot or Salesforce. But I would say to all these people that are doing it, create something that either does everything or create something that does one thing really, 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 really well, not wishy-washy, because you're going to get a lot of people that are like, okay, I adopted it for a couple months and it didn't do what I needed to do. And there's also 5 other companies that do the same thing as what this is doing for cheaper.
Great advice. Chris, when you're thinking about this AI agent kind of revolution coming, and you think about all of the SOPs we've talked about across the entire customer journey, I get it that you're right now looking at data to understand where is the biggest investments that you can make in terms of improvements. But if you had unlimited resources right now, where in the customer journey would you look at to say, this is the area I'd love to solve first?
Oh boy, man, unlimited money.
I wouldn't say unlimited money. Let's think about it, unlimited AI workforce.
Okay. Yeah, which usually,
money would
these
be
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually we'll just say budget to bring out all of these things. I think for me, man, that is a great question, Adam. I think for me, I keep going top of funnel, and it's not necessarily to, everybody thinks like, oh, you're going to do something to cut funds. And I know folks in my team will listen to this. What I would do, like if you've got top of funnel and we've got our RDC team, the revenue development crew, it would be more like, okay, how do we get an agent to help secure these meetings for you? Because I still believe it takes that human interaction in order to decide, like, okay, are they in market? Are they engaged? Are they a hot account? Do they need to move on to the next thing, the next person in the buyer cycle? But that could also be multiple different things in and of itself, because you're looking at, getting the MQL, validating the MQL, getting them on a calendar of some kind, and then showing up. And ultimately, like if I had unlimited AI, some people might think I'm not thinking too deep, but if I could just get them to just book out my entire team's calendar day in and day out to where they can just concentrate on having the best conversations ever, and not necessarily like how many phone calls they've got to make in order to get a meeting, that would probably be my at least my first step, like the first thing that I would look at if I had, an agent to help me out unlimitedly.
And that's what we talked about in the beginning. How do you scale? And you're saying in order to scale, solve for that. So the sales folks do what they do best: build
Yeah.
relationships, share value, move the ball down as opposed to hunt down. So how would it kind of an agent, if we were to think about architecting it? So look at the MQL, look at the internal conversations, right? Look at what you have available in your CRM. Is there anything else that this agent would be looking at outside of, if anything was possible? If this was unlimited AI resources, where else would you want them to go, and what to check for in order to make that calendar event more likely?
I mean, look at all the data that's public these days, and then all the things that if it could wind its way out there. So here's dream world, right? Like agent goes out and okay, my job is to get XYZ amount of meetings set up for my team. They're going to be scouring LinkedIn and seeing like who's changed jobs or what company has potentially been hit with an OSHA, they're OSHA fine, or what new regulatories have rolled out. And I'm speaking purely from my world, and it could be applicable to everybody else. But go out and start to piece together, and then maybe there's intent data that's baked in there too. And it's like, okay, well, hey, these companies have had these issues. They're in market. They're looking for an EHS platform or some other kind of platform. I'm going to start now to identify the persona within that company, and it matches our criteria that they're in the industries we played well with. And then I'm going to start to reach out to them, email them, do whatever I need to do. Just be like, listen, hey, I see they're having a tough time. We want to help. We've done this before. We've helped these people before. I don't know what the messaging would be, but that would be kind of my thing too, is like, okay, now it's doing true prospecting and going out there and figuring it out. Maybe it's even a matter of like, maybe it's not even instigating the emails, right? Maybe it's a matter of like, listen, I've gone out and done all the due diligence to these 17 data points and pulled together that based on the probability, you could expect connecting with this person at 80%, and they're probably going to have a conversation with you. Like that would be my dream too, because then it comes down to prioritization, prospecting, calling in, having that human connection, and then it's also scalable too, because it's like, okay, well, the agent's going out, and we've now exceeded the threshold of what the capacity is for our team. Now you bring on another person. Now the agent is unlimited. They can go out there and continue to do it, and we just keep replicating that.
And to clarify, this is an agent that's working your existing leads in your system.
No, actually, I was going the opposite way, where it's prospecting
Uh-huh.
outside with all the different
Got
data
it.
points. You've got intent data through multiple different platforms, LinkedIn, just the general web. And if it's scouring everything and figuring that out, then that could be another lift. Because I mean, I also look at it as time units. How many time units is my team doing this? Because they've also got to eat and breathe and drink water. The agent doesn't, and so it could even be theoretically working at night while everybody's sleeping, and then delivering these MQLs before they even wake up.
It's exciting, scary, thrilling, intimidating. It brings a whole different bag of emotions. But
Yeah.
if I had to guess, 24 months from now, we're likely going to see those agents. 12 months from now, maybe. By the end of the year, who knows? Depends. Maybe they're the pioneers. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was going to say, like, it goes back to what we said initially at the very beginning of our conversation, is that we are living. My wife and I talk about this all the time. We are living in an age where I've seen more change in my business discipline than I mean ever before. I've been doing it right out of college. I'm lucky enough to actually got a degree in marketing. Been working in marketing for 20 years, and I've seen more change in the last 6 months, let alone the last 2 years when GPT first came on the market, than ever before. And so, with everybody that's making posts on LinkedIn of like, oh man, things are tough, or like you're gonna have to adapt and evolve because everybody else is adapting and evolving, and you can't be doing the same strategies. So figure them out yourself, or just wait until an agent comes in. But educate yourself and lean into AI. That's usually my two big things I tell everybody.
Makes total sense. And the joke with our head of product, Jeff, he usually, he's been saying, hey, we don't work like it's 2024 anymore, right? 2024, you understand, it's like 4 months ago. And I bet a day's coming where it's like, oh, it's not last month anymore. The following series of new tools have become available. It's insane,
Yeah,
the rate of
it
change.
is. Yeah.
Um, So Chris, I want to leave our audience with last piece of advice from you, right? And it could be about chickens and the importance of chickens, where we began, because you talked about how, you got me thinking. I don't have the opportunity to do that, but if I did, I'd probably be looking into it. But what's one piece of advice you'd give a marketing leader who wants to stay hands-on, right? Even as AI is just changing the rules, breaking the rules of the game.
Oh boy. Well, if you're a marketing leader and you haven't been exposed to almost every discipline within your company, or I mean, into the discipline of marketing, you definitely should do some catching up. I'm not saying that everybody's got to become a graphic designer or know how to cut video in addition to writing good content, and because there's also a whole bag of worms of what are the numbers telling you, and from the numbers, what decisions are you going to make, and where are you going to invest your money, and what's your customer acquisition cost. There's just a whole bag of ball of yarn that you've got to figure out. I would say if you want to stay relevant, is you could almost cut your losses at what you do know, and I would focus on what does a new future mean for prospecting, lead gen, content development. Because for so long we've just been like, oh, long form blogs or this or that, and like just the amount of content. Well, now it's coming down to you could write one piece of quality content that could bring all your traffic in if the LLM thinks that it's worthy. So that's really kind of my 2 cents. Is I would start looking at what's happening right now and listening to everybody who's established and saying like, this is what we're seeing, and start to plan for 6, 12, 18 months down the road.
Chris, that's not 2 cents. That's a lot more. Are you talking about cutting? Like that's serious. Cut your losses. Like imagine
Yeah.
we're saying someone spent a career to get to where they are. And your advice is like, you're not forgetting what you know. You're now focusing on what the future holds.
I mean, when GPT first came out, I called it. I didn't say it with a light heart, and we're seeing it now. I said, we're going to see droves and droves and droves of SEO agencies closing down because we're not going to need them anymore. And so my advice to those agencies is you're going to have to diversify yourself. And also the first person who comes out as an expert in whatever acronym you want to call it, we'll just keep calling it LLMO, you're going to be ahead of the pack. So get really good at it. Don't sell snake oil. Be able to show real world numbers that are going to move people. And I think you'll set yourself out. But that is the sad truth of moving technology. We're going to see, and Adam, how long has SEO been around? I mean, how long have SEO agencies been around? Maybe 15 years. So now we've got a whole industry who's being threatened in a matter of months.
You don't want to get me started. I was in SEO when it was link farming and we were
Same.
spinning articles and it
Yep.
was offshore. And then all of a sudden there was a moment it all went away overnight.
Yep.
Right. I think it was that cute penguin Google release
Yep.
that came out, and that wasn't so cute for many that were in that industry. But I think what you're forewarning everyone who's in the game is that it's already happening. It just we haven't yet seen the conclusive nature of it, but it's in play.
It's a sad part of like, I've got a lot of content professionals in my network, and I don't think people are going to really enjoy me saying this, but like, if that is your number one thing, take it or leave it. I can go out and I can write an article faster on GPT right now that would take you days to do. And you know what? Everyone's like, oh, well, Google doesn't like this AI written content. Actually, that's been disproven. It prefers AI written content to human written content. There's a couple of articles that came out last year that really surprised me because the numbers came out and you're like, actually, all this content that everybody's just been drumming up quickly is showing better than a lot of the human content. So it's a crazy time. And I think it's only going to get crazier as AI, but it's also, if you look at it, like I said, it's a gold rush. So a lot of opportunity for folks too, to change careers and make some money.
And that's what we're going to leave it as. As much as I'd like to continue, Chris, we're going to leave it on there's opportunity. Go pursue it.
I love that. Yep, I agree with that.
And then back to chickens, but in order for you all to know more, you got to reach out to Chris. Not to me. I don't know a lot about chickens. Chris, this was fun.
Likewise, yeah, and everybody listening, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect. And then just don't pitch me, but happy to set up a meeting to discuss things with you, or you can pick my brain. I believe knowledge should be shared. So, yeah.
Chris, this was fun. Everyone listening in, subscribe and comment below. Thanks. Over and out.
Thanks, everybody.